It was just a regular evening at a small town diner. The scent of fresh coffee filled the air. Soft music played in the background, and people were lost in their conversations. The warm yellow lights flickered slightly, giving the restaurant a cozy, old-fashioned charm. At a corner table, a young boy sat alone, staring at his untouched plate of food. His shoulders were hunched, his fingers nervously tracing patterns on the tablecloth. Across from him, two older boys whispered and laughed. One of them reached over, knocking the boy's cup over on purpose. "Oops," he smirked. The boy's face turned red, his hands trembling as he tried to clean up the mess with a napkin. The bullies snickered, nudging each other, and that's when he walked in, Will Smith. The atmosphere shifted instantly. People turned their heads as the Hollywood icon entered the diner, wearing a casual jacket, hands in his pockets, as if he was just another guy grabbing a meal. But then, his eyes locked onto the scene at the corner table. Will stopped. His jaw tightened. He had seen this before. He had lived this before. As a kid, he had been bullied too. He knew that helpless look, the desperate wish to disappear. He had carried those feelings for years, and now he wasn't going to let it happen again. Slowly, he walked toward the table. The two bullies, realizing who was standing before them, froze. One of them tried to play it cool. "Yo, aren't you—" Will cut him off, his voice calm but firm. "What's going on here?" The boy who had spilled the drink shrugged. "Nothing, just joking around." Will leaned in slightly, looking straight into his eyes. "A joke is funny when both people are laughing. Does he look like he's laughing?" Silence. The entire diner was watching. The bullied boy looked up, unsure of what to say. Will knelt beside him. "Hey man, what's your name?" "Ethan." His voice was barely above a whisper. "You like burgers, Ethan?" Will gestured to his untouched plate. Ethan nodded slowly. "Then eat, my man, and don't let anyone make you feel small." He turned back to the bullies. "You know, I was just like you guys once. Thought I had to be tough, put people down to feel bigger. But let me tell you," he tapped his chest, "real strength? It's here, and it's about lifting people up, not pushing them down." The bullies exchanged awkward glances. One of them mumbled, "We didn't mean anything by it." Will gave them a knowing smile. "Then prove it. Apologize. Or leave." They hesitated, then finally muttered, "Sorry, man." And with that, they got up and walked out. The diner burst into quiet applause. People whispered in awe, but Will didn't stay for the recognition. He patted Ethan on the shoulder, placed some cash on the counter for his meal, and walked toward the door. As Will was about to leave, Ethan called out, "Wait." Will turned back, his expression softening. Ethan hesitated for a moment, as if gathering his courage. Then, with a shaky voice, he said, "Thank you." Will just smiled. "You got this." But the story didn't end there. As Will walked out of the diner, a customer sitting nearby had already pulled out his phone, recording the entire interaction. He uploaded the video to social media with a simple caption, "Will Smith just did something incredible at this diner." Within hours, the video exploded online. People across the internet were praising Will Smith, not just for being a celebrity, but for standing up for a kid who needed someone in his corner. The next day, Ethan walked into school with his head held a little higher. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel invisible. He didn't try to shrink away when he passed the bullies in the hallway. Instead, he walked straight past them, shoulders back. And this time, they didn't say a word, because they knew. They had been seen. They had been called out, and the world was watching. News outlets started picking up the story. TV hosts were discussing it. Parents were showing their kids the video. using it as an example of how to stand up for what's right. But for Ethan, the biggest change wasn't just the attention online. It was how he felt about himself. For years he had believed the bullies. He had let their words define him. But that night at the diner, Will Smith had reminded him of something important. His worth wasn't up for debate. He wasn't weak. He mattered. A few days later, Ethan's mom wrote a heartfelt letter that she shared online. For so long, I watched my son come home in tears, afraid to go to school, afraid to be seen. That night, something changed. Will Smith didn't just defend my son, he gave him his confidence back. He reminded him that he's not alone. That moment changed everything. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Will never responded publicly. He didn't need to. His actions had already spoken loud enough. Because sometimes one moment, one act of kindness is enough to change a life. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and share. You never know whose life you might impact next.